Second to last game I'm going to go over here. We got the Patriots against the Seahawks. Sunday Night Football, easily the best game of the season so far. Now, right away for this game, can we just take a second to talk about the performances by the Patriots offensive players? I mean, Cam Newton did great. He is clearly fallen right into Bill Belichick's system, and honestly, I think Bill Belichick is the mastermind behind this. Cam Newton obviously has a lot left in his tank. Cam Newton is a beast. We see that now. That's not out of the question now. That is for sure. But I think that we also need to pay attention to, I think a big part of this comes from Bill Belichick's ability to build an offense and to build a system around Cam Newton. 30 completions, 444 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 pick for Cam Newton. I mean, he played great. He really played great. And he just showed how unstoppable he can be on the ground, especially at the goal line, except for the last play, of course. But on the ground, through the air, he showed that he's still got it. And Bill Belichick showed that he built a system, he built a team that is going to rally around Cam Newton and use Cam Newton to push this team into the playoffs. Julian Edelman had 8 catches for 179 yards, a career high in yardage for the 34-year-old receiver. 2 games with Cam Newton, he already has a career high in receiving yards. N'Keal Harry also impressed. 8 catches for 72 yards. Those are both career highs, which is great to see. N'Keal Harry didn't really do much last season in his rookie year. He's a first-round pick. He was injured for the majority of the season. He comes in, doesn't get more than 3 catches in a game. This season, he starts out well in both the first 2 games, 5 catches in week 1 and here 8 catches in week 2. He's shaping out to be a solid number 2 choice for Cam Newton to go through. And if he keeps evolving as the games go on, he could very well be a very solid number 1 choice at the end of the season. And Damiere Byrd also showed up today, 6 catches for 72 yards. Bill Belichick showed that it was the pass game today that they were going to rely on, and they did. And it was there. Those receivers showed up. Those 3 that I just mentioned really showed up. The game was great to watch. I mean, it was great just to see the quarterback play. I mean, Wilson throwing bombs to DK Metcalf, to Lockett. I mean, he was on point. Cam Newton was on point. The receivers were on point. It was just a fun game to watch. It came all the way down to the final play. The last drive, I mean, the Julian Edelman catch for one. Cam Newton threw a brilliant bomb to Julian Edelman. I remember it was a great play to see because Bill Belichick every once in a while does this. And I remember the last season, they did it a few times with Edelman, and pretty much every time Brady just threw it a little far out for Edelman to catch. But here he does it for the first time this season, and it works out really well. Julian Edelman, he's known for just going out 5 yards, going out 6 yards, cutting to the right. Or maybe going out 15, 20 yards, cutting to the right. Well, what he did on this play, with Jamal Adams covering him, granted, one of the best secondary players in the league covering him, he goes out in the slot, he runs up, takes a shortcut to the right after about 6 yards, as per the usual. That's Edelman's go-to route. He does it, and then he fools Jamal Adams, because right then Jamal Adams is thinking, all right, this is what Edelman does, this is what he's doing. So he plays for that kind of slant route, and then Julian Edelman, boom, cuts upfield. And Julian Edelman isn't super fast, but with how quickly he cut, he got a good head start on Jamal Adams, and he didn't have to run very far upfield for Cam Newton to notice he was open by just a step. And Julian Edelman leapt out and got a great grab deep down the field. It was a brilliant play. Julian Edelman had some brilliant plays on Sunday night. He looked like a star, and quite honestly, he is one for that Patriots team. Now, the last drive of the game was also impressive. I mean, Cam Newton, last drive of the game, he's got just under 2 minutes to go. He needs to come up with a clutch drive. This is what Brady has always done. It's what Patriots fans love most about him, his clutch ability. When he was in these situations, he won almost every single time. Cam Newton goes all the way down the field. And not to mention, N'Keal Harry, 3 catches on that drive, all for over 10 yards. N'Keal Harry was really clutch. That's great to see from the rookie man, or the second-year man, who really didn't do much in his rookie year. It's great to see. He's developing, and honestly, I think one of Brady's biggest weaknesses last year was he didn't trust the rookie receivers. He didn't trust those first-year guys. Cam Newton does. He threw it to him on that drive, and it worked out well. They move all the way down the field, and Honestly, I think it was just a bad play call. I don't hate the play call, but it obviously wasn't the right play call at that point by Josh McDaniels and Bill Belichick. Cam Newton did everything right on that drive. There wasn't anything he could do on that last play to change it. The only thing I was really kind of confused about was I think there was about 18 seconds left, 18 or 19 seconds left. They hit, I don't remember exactly who it was, but they hit one of the receivers right on the left side of the field, and he stays in bounds. So the clock's running, and everyone's just kind of jogging the field. And I'm like yelling at my TV. I'm like, guys, you got 18 seconds left. Every second that you spend jogging is one less play at the goal line. And they blew a good 12 seconds just lining up to run that next play. They hit N'Keal Harry at the 2-yard line, which was great. It was a great play to see, but they blew a good 12 seconds doing it. If you call that timeout right there, that gives you a good 3 to 4 plays to get it in the end zone. Because, even if they don't call a timeout there, if they just hurry it up, they could have saved easily 6 seconds there. You hit N'Keal Harry on that catch then you have 8 seconds at the goal line with a timeout. That gives you a shot for at least one time to throw it. You say, hey, Cam Newton, we're going to give you the ball, we're going to let you throw it, or we're going to do kind of an option play where we've got receivers in the end zone, we've got an open route for you to run the ball in, and if nothing's there, just throw it out the back of the end zone, man. That's all you got to do. We got 8 seconds, we got 2 plays, but instead they blow 12 seconds running to the line without calling a timeout when they had 1 timeout left. Then they throw it to N'Keal, they call the timeout, but there's only 2 seconds left, so now you only have 1 play when you could have had 3 at the goal line. I mean, honestly, it was just a really confusing coaching decision there by Bill Belichick. I didn't understand it. It was arguably more confusing than the play call. I mean, the play call wasn't terrible. It had worked 2 times before in that game, getting Cam Newton into the end zone. It had worked. It's not like that play wasn't working. It was very high percentage in that game. It made sense to run it again. Honestly, what I think would have been good for them, though, was to at least have one receiver, maybe Edelman far out wide, or Damiere Byrd, or even N'Keal Harry out wide. Or here, in my eyes, this is what you do in that scenario, because the Seahawks know for sure now that is a run play. I mean, you ran it the first time, they didn't really know, but it was pretty obvious because the fullback went up. It's like there's nobody out wide. It's pretty clear it's going to be a quarterback run. The second time you run it in a row, they kind of know what's coming, but they don't really know for sure. They know there could be a little play action here, but it ends up being the same play. Now, the third time in a row, it's the exact same formation. They know what's coming. They're going to go all out for the run. That's when you need to put 2 receivers out wide, maybe even 1. 2 receivers off the line, at the very least, just to free up the line, because that's 2 less players you have to worry about stopping that run. Because no matter what, it's a 10 on 11 for Cam Newton. He's got 10 blockers, they've got 11 defenders. 1 guy's going to get through. And 1 guy did. Honestly, 2 guys did, and they made a great play on that ball. The fullback, Jacob Johnson, missed the block, but it was a great defensive play. I don't really blame the fullback there. It was just a really great defensive play. But in the end, that play call, in my eyes, it wasn't a terrible choice when you're thinking about it statistically. But in the end, I mean, you got to think to yourself, hey, at the very least, can we have 1 receiver out wide? At the bare minimum, if they put 1 receiver out wide and just ran a type of RPO, where you have Edelman run across the middle while they're doing this same type of play, still with Jacob Johnson, still with 2 tight ends, and you have him run this play, but you also give him the shot of like, hey, because he took a stutter step there. Cam Newton took a stutter step on that play. He didn't just grab it and charge for the end zone. He took a stutter step before he started going to the end zone. I don't know why, because it's not like there was another option for him. He should have just gone charging right away and tried to immediately just plunge his way into the end zone. But he didn't on any of the plays in which they ran that play. And I think it's kind of partly to try and fool the defense to make him kind of second guess to completely charge the run. But either way, I think they should have ran an RPO in which you have that same play, but you just put Edelman out wide. Take 1 blocker off, put Edelman out wide, because then it's now a 10 on 9, 9 blockers, 10 defenders rushing the ball. But now you also have to, because they're going to double team Edelman on that play, they're going to hold one of the linebackers, one of the safeties off, because they're not going to let Edelman be one-on-one in the end zone with the game on the line. They know Edelman can beat that if he's running a slant route. So they're not going to let him do that. They're going to put 2 on Edelman to be safe. And then you've got a 9-on-9 scenario rather than an 11-on-10 in terms of blocking, which even if you aren't going to pass it, it makes it easier to run it in. And it makes the defense second guess, hey, maybe they're going to pass it here. Let's not rush all 11 at the goal line. I just think, and if Edelman's open and the run isn't there, Cam can kind of step back in the pocket for a second and maybe just kind of try and dart one in, even if it's covered. And I feel like that's still a better shot. It gives you a much higher percent to win, not only because the blocking is now even in terms of how many players you have to block, 9-on-9, because they're going to double team Edelman. But not only that, but also if the run isn't there, you can always look at Edelman. Who knows? He might have like a little split second there where he's open, and if Cam can hit that, it's a touchdown. So, I hate to criticize it because it wasn't a terrible choice by Josh McDaniels, but it's just in that scenario with the game on the line, you got to be a little more creative. You can't run such a predictable play with the game on the line. You just can't. Could Brady have gotten it in? That's a question a lot of people are asking. I think it's hard to say. That's what Brady seemed to be best at. I think Brady would have gotten it in for sure had they run a pass play. Although there have been times in history where Brady has not gotten it in. You look at the AFC Championship for Super Bowl 50. I mean, Brady had one pass play to try and get it in the end zone for a 2-point conversion. Didn't get it in. So, I mean, there have been times in which Brady hasn't done it, but I know that's a question I've seen a lot of people asking, especially Patriots fans. But, I mean, that wasn't Cam Newton's fault at all. It was the play calling, and the play calling wasn't terrible. Now, for the Seahawks, Wilson is putting together what looks to be an MVP season. He's simply playing amazing. And in this game, he continued to impress. Wilson had 288 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 1 interception, which was tipped by Greg Olsen. A total of 9 touchdowns through the first 2 games. Theoretically, on pace for 72 touchdowns through the air. Even if you give him an average of 2.5 touchdowns for the remainder of the season each game, which is more than fair considering he put up 5 against the Patriots secondary, he ends the season with 44 passing touchdowns, an MVP-level year. The run game was also much better this week, putting up over 100 yards on the ground and simply looking more reliable and consistent on the ground overall rather than in week 1. Now, one thing the Seahawks really need to worry about going forward is the pass rush. Bruce Irvin is out for the year, and the Seahawks didn't get any pressure on Cam Newton really throughout the game. Cam Newton did not get pressure. He had a lot of time to throw. I think that was a big reason Cam Newton played so well, and I was surprised by how good the Patriots O-line played considering how bad they were last year. I mean, Cam Newton had a lot of time to throw. You can't have that when you have a guy like Cam Newton. He's a guy that is great on the ground. You need to get pressure on him. And he's also great through the air, so you need to get the ball out of his hands quickly, especially when the Patriots have receivers that will not beat you one-on-one. And that will not beat you over the top. They're going to go for in-the-middle, underneath plays. So, get pressure on the quarterback. Make him throw it quickly. They're not going to beat you over the top unless you give them a whole ton of time. These guys aren't speed burners. Demir Bird isn't going to run down the field in 4.5 seconds. He's going to need a little more time than that, and arguably he's not going to run that many routes like that. So they got to get a better pass rush. And now Bruce Irvin out, that becomes much harder, but they got to find a way to do it if they want to keep winning into the future.